Good evening, everyone. Seeing that it is a couple of minutes after 7 o'clock, we will call the Wildwood Building Committee meeting to order. It is January the 11th, 2022. Happy New Year to everyone, and welcome tonight to a different location, the Wildwood School. Thank you to WCTV for their partnership in helping us broadcast from the Wildwood on this evening that we held an open house for members of the community who came to visit and walk through, and we thank those for coming tonight. We'll go for roll call to formally begin the meeting, and I know this will be a little more challenging tonight with our layout, so bear with us, please, everyone, and if we could start at the my far left, please. David Ragsdale, President. Paul Maloney, Permanent Building Committee. Glenn Brand, Superintendent.
Paul Gerald, Wilmington Public Schools.
George Hooper, Superintendent of Buildings.
Jeff Holt, Town Manager.
Greg Bendel, Member of the Board of Selectmen.
Marianne Galezo, Finance Committee.
And joining us virtually or remotely, I should say, on the phone, Ms. Allen.
Diane Allen, Permanent Building Committee.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Hopefully you have an agenda either with you electronically or in hard copy. We have some of those that are sprinkled throughout. We will move through our agenda tonight in the order of items listed, unless there are any other additional items that members of the committee might wish to put forth or add for consideration. But going in order down through the agenda tonight, item number two, approval of minutes from November 16th, 2021. And just to help Ms. Ingersoll here, who's taking notes, if you could kindly make sure that you identify yourself, we'll look for a motion for approval of minutes from November 16th.
So moved, David Ragsdale.
Thank you, David. And a second?
Second. Marianne Galezo.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you so much. Item number 3, dissemination of recent MSBA deliverables. We, since our last meeting, have had a fair amount of activity, and thank you in particular goes to Paul and to George, who have really been working very diligently behind the scenes to comply with what the next set of deliverables are for the town and for the district with MSBA. They include enrollment, that's item 3A, of course, and 3B, capital. The information that was submitted to MSBA was also shared with members of the committee. And for those that are in the community that may be watching or interested in this, I'll just take this opportunity to remind everyone that all of the information associated with this committee, the work of this committee, and more recently, of course, these two items are available on a tab of the district of Wilmington Public Schools website entitled Wildwood Building Committee. And so for anyone who's interested in reading up a little bit more on that information. I'll pause there, and I'll turn it over to Paul first if there's anything, Paul, you wanted to add regarding enrollment.
I'll just add that toward the end of September, we had to submit enrollment projections, enrollment information, working collaboratively with the town, Brian Perry, and so forth, and that was submitted to the MSBA at the end of September. And mid to late December, the MSBA turned around with this enrollment projection, and that was what was emailed out to the committee. And it's their way of looking at and projecting enrollment throughout the district for the next 10 years using information, historical information, and so forth. So that's the December 2021 enrollment projections prepared by the MSBA with their formulas that they use.
Any questions on enrollment from members? Okay. George, anything that you'd like to add regarding the second item around capital maintenance planning documents?
Basically, it's a history of what we can go through, and working close with the town accountant and the town manager. We put together capital projects. We go out there and receive RFPs, request for proposals, see what type of funds we need to allocate for our budget, and then they go into our 5-year capital planning.
Thank you, George. Any questions at all from members of the committee for George on the capital items?
If I could mention one more thing on the enrollment. The MSBA, when we had a discussion with them at the end of December, they had indicated they'll be sending us an enrollment certification document with our agreement on their projection and so forth. We have not seen that yet, but we assume we should receive that in the next week or so.
Paul?
George, what are the challenges that you face with this school as opposed to the other schools in town?
Basically the infrastructure in this building, its age being one of them because of some of the material that it's constructed with, some of its asbestos that you may have in the ceiling plaster or the floor tile. Also is the heating system that's here is a steam generated heat system that we have in place. So trying to keep that functioning is kind of a challenge. We keep it going. The boilers that are here were replaced in 1990s, I believe, and the crawl space that we do not have a lot of accessibility to some of the equipment, but it's challenging to get there. And the windows that are here are single pane, steel frame windows, so not very energy efficient. So it's just the age of the building. And for the electrical that's in here, it does not support the current technology or the infrastructure that's needed for, I'm sure, some of the programming that the staff needs for educational purposes. So.
Thanks, George. Are there any other questions on either capital or enrollment? We'll follow George before we move on. Thank you again to both of those gentlemen for, I know often awfully busy schedules and overflowing plates for their work. As we've done in the other past items, certainly as we continue to make our way through the next set of deliverables regarding MSBA items, we'll be sure to update this committee and the community on those as we move forward in the coming weeks and the coming months. Moving on to item number 4, discussion regarding presentation, or the thought of presentations to the respective other boards. We obviously, as a committee, have been engaged in conversation around the next steps in this process, which, of course, we set our sights on the date in March for a special town meeting. And so it was a thought to have this as an item here tonight, just to get a sense of, from this committee, in terms of thoughts, suggestions, recommendations around how we continue to really communicate this effort and this project. We'll get to communication in a item a little bit further into the agenda, but I'll maybe just ask Mr. Hull if you wouldn't mind just providing just a brief update in terms of at least one of the upcoming possible meetings that we might have in the near future.
I'm sorry, what was the last part of your question?
Sorry, upcoming meetings that you would envision or might recommend regarding this topic for the other committees in town.
So certainly with the special town meeting scheduled for March 8th, we're in the process of getting that information out. There was a piece that went out today it was posted on our social media. I think it would be advantageous for us to perhaps have a presentation about the merits of what we're seeking here, which is $1.2 million proposed to come from free cash for the feasibility study, and to be able to perhaps speak to that at a selectmen's meeting, at a school committee meeting, and perhaps the finance committee will be starting their regular meetings in February. There may be an opportunity, subject to the chair's consideration, to set aside some time during one of the regular budget meetings to provide a brief piece on why we're pursuing this at this point.
Thank you, Jeff. Other thoughts from members of the committee in terms of next steps relative to our dissemination of information to the town leadership, town boards? Really to try and just get a sense of the committee in terms of the collective thoughts around moving beyond this committee itself to entertain the idea of reaching out and providing either updates or engage in discussions with the committees. And so really just to get a sense of this committee on whether or not that's something we should consider pursuing.
I would just add that, I think the merits of having a conversation with the respective committees is to reinforce, number one, why it is that this special town meeting is taking place and why we need the funds, and then to also perhaps lay out to some measure the next steps, if in fact the town does authorize the additional funding, what that bodes for us going forward, so that people have an understanding of, what is really a fairly lengthy process here. We're still in the early stages, just finishing up with eligibility, but I guess the underlying messages, or what I would suggest anyways, is why is it we're seeking the money at this time, and what will this enable the town to do going forward?
Thanks, Jim.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Greg Bendel. I just want to agree with the manager. I think any opportunity we can get in front of the camera and the public to describe this process, there's a benefit to all of us. I think even if someone wasn't able to attend tonight, perhaps they could attend a school committee meeting where they could hear this presentation, a selectment meeting, or a finance committee meeting. All these with less than 2 months to go before the vote. I think any opportunity in front of the public is beneficial to our benefit. And I can only speak for myself, but I see two of my colleagues here, Mr. Carr, Ms. O'Connell. I know that the selectmen, subject to the chair, would welcome an opportunity to hear this presentation in one of our meetings as well.
Thank you. Greg?
Mr. Chair, might I just add, Kevin Kyra, selectman, alternate to the committee. I might add, when you're presenting this, that you also let the public know how much reimbursement is potentially coming back to us as well. Because I think if they see that 40%, 45%, whatever it might be coming back from the MSBA is very important for the community to realize that that's part of the whole equation of this.
Yeah, also, I besides the new building, I would also try to get out there your thoughts on consolidation, less transitions for the students, what you're looking to, what the big plan is, not just for a new building, but also for consolidation of grades and what you're looking to do.
Thank you.
Hi, Judy O'Connell, Board of Selectmen. Just some other suggestions to think about is perhaps some direct communication with the senior population through Terry Masiello. The seniors are a very vibrant body of people that would certainly feel special if they were spoken to specifically about the worthy endeavor of funding for future education endeavors. Additionally, if there's anything that WCTV, they've been a great partner in communications for all of these projects. If there's anything that they're willing to put together that's kind of quick and just as a repetitive soundbite on WCTV continuously, in addition to having these meetings regularly played, perhaps just a soundbite with reference to the project, the call to action to come out to the town meeting, and the date because it is different than our typical schedule. And so obviously the media outlets and other social media vehicles you've already spoken about. So just wanted to offer those suggestions.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts or comments from the committee?
I guess just a question to the extent that there are various either PACs or similar groups that are meeting between now and then, would there be an opportunity to provide information, whether it's even a written document like some of the ones that you have here tonight, or some kind of a brief piece during those meetings?
I do. It's a great thought. It's certainly. I think one of the advantages of where we're at right now with virtual. Sorry, I should have done this earlier. With the virtual Zoom format is certainly to allow us to record a targeted presentation that could be shared with our PACs and PTOs, with our school councils, and just have our principals also tap into disseminating this information to their families as well too. So that's certainly something that we can also pull together. Okay, unless there's anything else further on that topic.
Actually,
sorry.
One more quick comment, which is that part of the reason that we have board representation on this committee from the Selectmen, Finance Committee, and School Committee is to be able to report back to our respective boards about these meetings. And so just an encouragement that I think that for every meeting after a Wildwood Building Committee meeting, that it would be good for there to be an official report made. During our school committee meetings, we have a specific section for subcommittees reports. So yes, I would encourage Mr. Bendel and Ms. Galazzo to also report back to their respective boards as a formal matter when they next meet.
Good reminder. Thank you for that.
Chair, if I may just add to Mr. Ragnell's comment, the Board of Selectmen do the same as well. We traditionally, after any subcommittee meeting, the representative report back the same for this committee as well.
Great. Okay. Moving on to, thank you for that, item number 5, which is certainly somewhat related, and that is around communication plan, marketing materials. The last time that we met, we did talk, you'll recall, at some length about this and trying to recognize both the challenges and opportunities to convey to the Wilmington community as a whole around this important opportunity where the town finds itself with this partnership with MSBA. Since that meeting, some time back, work with great help and appreciation to Ms. Ingersoll has put together some print materials, of which are spread out throughout the settings here tonight. In addition to the website that we have that I mentioned earlier that's off of the district website, we have, as per our discussion, developed some print materials. The first is the more full brochure, if you will, that some of you will have copies of, that tries to tell the whole story, if you will, in terms of this opportunity that where we find ourselves. This is, we have hard copies of this, but we also have this in digital format on the tab that I mentioned a few times on the website. So for members of the community, again, who might be interested in perusing the information. We also, there was a committee, you'll recall, talked about the fact that we know that this is a little bit more of a lengthy document, and the idea of breaking it down into chunks, if you will, smaller bite-sized pieces, and that is captured in the smaller brochures, of which we have hard copies here tonight. We have far more copies of this, and it's the thought to disseminate these to various places in town, from the library to town hall and the like, and also make these available electronically. And so the feedback, much appreciated last time we talked, this brochure effectively has been broken down into 4 different parts. The first, introduction, followed by a more focus on the town master plan, and followed by building with MSBA and the Wildwood building information. We have we've taken the suggestions of the committee and have pushed out to the community at large the full brochure that I mentioned, as well as the introduction. And I can't recall when that went out, Tracy. Can you remind me? And so our thought is to continue as we move into the next couple of weeks, and probably on a weekly basis, maybe 10 days, we'll push out the next brochure and so on, to continue to try and draw attention to this project and the opportunity. So that's the information in the print form, if you will, and we'll obviously be making these available electronically as well too. So just pause there for any feedback on that approach, thoughts around how to perhaps think even broader around conveying the information beyond how I just shared is our thinking right now.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think going forward to, since the selectmen now will open and close the warrant for the special town meeting, I believe we need to really, to Ms. O'Connor's point, is to start pushing out that date and the time and the location of the special town meeting. That needs to be communicated along with all these brochures as much as possible.
Yeah, and that is a great point, and thank you for drawing attention to that. When these were made, these were put together and finalized well before the winter break, so certainly it was ahead of that date, but we should indeed take advantage of the fact that it's before us now. So very good point. Thank you. Other thoughts, comments, suggestions in terms of?
Dr. Brand, Diane Allen.
Yes, Ms. Allen.
Dr. Brand. Yes. Question. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't hear clearly. How were the brochures going to be disseminated?
So a couple of things on that. We have quite a few hard copies, if you will, of the brochures, and we haven't, not as of yet, disseminated those to different locations in town, but that is the intent in the coming days. For example, the library, the town hall, senior center, certainly, and I'm sure there's others I'm just not thinking of. We also, of course, capitalize on our electronic information system in which we tap into our families, thousands of recipients there, and so those have already gone out electronically to our families. The hard copies will start to deliver in short order here.
Okay. And is there, my second part of the question is there going to be any additional information on exactly what the feasibility study will be looking at? In other words, that may be a question that comes at the special town meeting. Exactly what is the feasibility study going to be looking at?
Just, if I may, just to clarify, do you mean specifically the options the town of Wilmington might pursue, or do you mean specifically what exactly is the feasibility study itself?
Correct. Yeah, I'm thinking, most people are going to wonder, what is this $1.2 million? And we're using the term feasibility study. Specifically, what is the feasibility study going to do and consist of?
I think very good question. Thoughts by members of the committee on that, or is that simply something that we would be wise to fold into future presentations as we were talking about previously to the other boards?
Well, I think it should be part of the discussion with the other boards. What is the product, so to speak, of this feasibility study effort? What are we going to get at the end of the day? I think we need to be able to clarify to folks what that will be, which will certainly consist of looking at various scenarios for grade configuration and building options.
Any other thoughts or comments on that?
Mr. Chair, isn't it a requirement from the MSBA to have a feasibility study? I mean, isn't that why we're having this?
That is true. That is accurate. But I think, so that's a very fair point, but I think also some context exactly around, I think was Ms. Allen's point in terms of exactly what is the feasibility study. You are right. It is a necessary step, I guess, if you will, in the MSBA partnership program. It has to come next, but I think just providing context is how I'm taking that, I think.
Right. I think certainly the point that this, in order to remain eligible for funding, we need to complete this step. is certainly compelling, but I think the other point that will be equally compelling is what does this effort do for us? You know, what is the end result?
Other comments at all? Any other feedback on the written information that you hopefully may have had a chance to take a look at? Certainly is welcome either here tonight or following our meeting. We want to try to hit the mark and make sure that we're obviously recognizing that there are some people that are following this more closely than others, but we want to make sure that we're getting the right information out in a way that is digestible for members of the community. Okay. So moving on, next item on the agenda is a discussion around the next meeting date and possible location. In terms of timing of this, I don't know, Mr. Drew, I don't know that there's anything specific certainly tied to an MSBA step per se, but any thoughts around when would be good to meet next?
Would we be thinking that there would be, we would need one more meeting before the special town meeting? I think we want to tie thinking about this to the town meeting.
One of the challenges is going to be certainly in February, Tuesday, Thursdays are Finance Committee, and Wednesdays are between School Committee and the various Building Committee projects going on. And I don't know, my guess is, but certainly others can jump in here, is that it may be challenging to have a meeting during the week of February vacation, so we're probably talking possibly the 7th of February. It's even Mondays, so the selectmen's next meeting after the 24th of January is the 14th of February. They meet on the 14th and 28th.
Would it be beneficial, if we, Mr. Chair, if I may, would it be beneficial to have this group meet after the school committee, the selectmen, and maybe perhaps the finance committee have had a chance to have a discussion in case there was any questions or we had to respond to anything? Does it make sense to wait till they meet to maybe perhaps the first week of March, right before the meeting? Or is it too late? I don't know. That might be.
Yeah, that's a good point. And certainly, I do think it's going to be difficult to meet. That's one thought. The other thought I have is we as a committee want to come together to try and solidify any potential presentation as well to prospective boards for the community in the future. I'm not sure that
So one of the points just to, and this is, I just sent an email off today to John Doherty, the chair of the Finance Committee, to confirm, but he and I had preliminarily talked about the public hearing for the special town meeting being the 15th of February. There's certain timelines and guidelines that we have to abide by if we wanted to steer clear of the February vacation. So February 15th is subject to his final green light is the date we would be looking for to have the public hearing. So we certainly want to be prepared. That's kind of the trial run, if you will. We want to be prepared to offer, a brief presentation on making the case.
So then I might suggest it would probably be wise for us to try and meet before that date. It would seem, as you put it, Mr. Halpern, sort of a trial run. We want to make sure that we have the opportunity, perhaps as a committee, to discuss what that message exactly is.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if I know this is going to be really tough to do in the moment here.
Mr. Chair?
Sure. Yes.
Just on this, I agree. I think it's important that you meet in February, probably the week before town meeting as well. But maybe you discuss a Wednesday meeting or 2 Wednesday meetings and run it by the chairman of the senior committee and the town hall school administration committee. I don't know how, it's important to have those meetings, but you know, the site selection was done. I don't know if it's critically important to have a meeting every other week moving forward, at least in the month of February. Maybe further down, it's important for the senior center and the town hall school administration to meet every other week. But to have 2 Wednesdays available for this committee, because obviously time is short with the town meeting coming up March 8th, and there's not a lot of dates available, so we may have to forego a meeting for the senior center and the town hall school administration building, you know, to put this to the forefront for the March 8th meeting. So I would defer to the chairman. Maybe he can miss a meeting or 2 and look at it that way. And I also like the idea of having it here. I think it was Mr. Bendel's idea, I believe, of having to showcase what we want to show the community. You know, to have an hour and then have your meeting after. Tonight the weather was a little difficult. Maybe some people couldn't get out because of that. But to have it again, I am a big believer in public forums and giving the community the opportunity to see, you know, firsthand the situation that the school system is in and that these kids have to endure. So I think this is a great spot to have the meeting, but that's my own personal opinion. And I think a discussion with the chairman of those 2 other committees to see if he can loosen up a Wednesday or 2 for us would be a thought.
I'm sure with plenty of notice, we can work something out when we go through it, just to coordinate it with our other committee. Sure.
Any other comments on this? The suggestion of
Might I suggest another doodle poll?
right. Yeah, I was going to say we'll move this offline, so to speak, behind the scenes to try and figure out a date that does work, with an eye to try and get something together for this committee sooner than later, certainly ahead of at least the February date that you were speaking about. So we will do that. Which does raise another point, and Mr. Kyra, thank you for raising it again, the opportunity to provide, it is unfortunate tonight, weather probably may not have helped in terms of supporting members of the community to come out, but we did, I think I did mention before about offering another opportunity for members of Wilmington, the community, to come out and visit this school firsthand, to see for themselves the circumstances. If we were to have another meeting here, that certainly would be an option. It's also not lost upon me the thought of perhaps a weekend, Saturday morning too. I will tell you, haven't solidified a date yet, but I think it's a little bit easier. I can certainly come and we can do that for a couple of hours one Saturday morning for those that find through the week difficult. So I'm not suggesting we have to solidify that date, but I certainly remain committed to that and can do so in the coming weeks. So next meeting date, we will, I guess what I'm hearing as a suggestion is follow up on that, and we'll continue, Mr. Hawley, the conversation with the other respective leaders, so thank you, Mr. Carter, for that. It sounds, the suggestion, a recommendation, I suppose, is perhaps that location is here again. We certainly do that.
Yeah, I would agree that it makes sense to try to have another session here.
Okay, very good. Which brings us to item number 7, public comment. Are there any comments this evening? Does not appear. So with that, unless there's anything further from members of the committee.
Dr. Brand, I just have one question.
This is Alan,
I
yes.
just wanted to clarify something. Did the town manager say that MSBA is requiring a public hearing or a public forum on the 15th of February?
No, The meeting on the 15th is a consequence of the town's bylaws, which require, prior to a special or an annual town meeting, that the Finance Committee hold a public hearing to review the particulars of the articles, in this case, the one article, and then following that public hearing, they will take a vote on their recommendation. That recommendation is filed with the town clerk and ultimately is presented to the residents.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I thought there was something from the NSBA was requiring that the town have a public hearing for the town. But thank you very much for that explanation, Jeff.
Welcome. Well, thank you to members of the committee for coming out. Many of you, I know, were here earlier this evening, and we thank the members of the community who took time on their schedule to also visit on a rather chilly night, but we will be back. We will do this again, and with that, I suppose that brings us to the last item, looking for a motion to adjourn this evening.
So moved.
Second.
So this would be a roll
Mary Ann
call.
Glezo.
Thank you, Ms. Glezo.
Greg Bendel, yes.
Jeff Hull, yes.
George Hooper, yes.
Paul Ruggiero, yes.
Paul Malroney, yes.
Dave Bradstone, yes?
And Glenn Brand, yes. Thank you very much. Good evening.
And Diane Allen,
Oh,
yes.
yes, sorry, Miss Allen. Forgive me. Thank you.